Hi everyone and welcome to my condo here in Sriracha, Thailand. I am in isolation like most of you. I just go to the grocery store once or twice a week, and while I do, I go and offer some food to the monks because the monks can't eat if the lay people don't feed them. So we are allowed to go and feed the monks. Just put the food on a table, being a little far from them, and then going back home. And so I'm pretty much in isolation, like the rest of you are. And I would like to share a few thoughts that I have about this period of isolation. For one thing, I find that isolation here is a really good opportunity to see ourselves and to see and ask the question, how reliant is our happiness on things being solid or certain? Right? Because didn't it feel like our finances, the way they were before this situation, that they would probably continue to be similar? And didn't we take our health a little bit for granted? Of course, for those of us that are healthy. And we kind of had a feeling like things would tend to continue in the same trend that they were in. And then one day we wake up and this virus is spreading and we have to stay home and isolated. And from what I hear, everybody's crazy about toilet paper in Canada and the US, and so there are even toilet paper fights. And so things have gone a little bit bonkers, and people are panicked. Some people are very worried, concerned, of course, about their health of their family and friends. And a lot of people are just frustrated with the situation, bored and tired of being home and quite restless. And so with all these painful and negative type feelings and emotions that arise, a lot of people are drowning in them and having some trouble with the situation. And in some cases, which I'd like you to inspect within yourself, there might be a feeling like it's appropriate to not feel good. That there's something about worrying in this situation or in any situation that would normally call for it, that society would tell us or show us that we should not feel happy. Right? If this is something that's happening for us where we're sort of having the feelings that are appropriate for the situation. And we can see that when we have the appropriate feelings for situations, that we actually set ourselves up to be unhappy most of the time. Because a lot of the time, things aren't perfect, and certainly aren't perfect. Things often aren't going the way that we want them to. And so when our happiness is dependent on things going the way we want them to, like being healthy, or our finances being the way that we expect them to be or would like them to be, getting to eat what and when we want, having an abundance of toilet paper, then we can see that it becomes very easy then to grow unhappy. And when there are times that are uncertain like these, right, our mental state goes into a difficult position. And that is simply because we are quite attached to our mental states, our thoughts, to what we're thinking about. Very impressionable from what the news says and what other people say and from what our eyes see and our ears hear. And we're very attached to what we think about these things, our opinions, and then very attached to the resulting emotions. And thus we completely are enslaved by what we're thinking and by what we feel. Now, the Buddhists see that as a bit of a prison, Because sure, when things are going really well, we might have lots of good thoughts and be feeling really happy, good, confident, and all these types of things. But all it takes is the rug to be pulled from under us, like a situation like this pandemic situation we're having now. And then where is all that happiness? You see, our happiness is relying on some sort of solid foundation of so many checks and balances, so many things having to go in particular ways and be in particular ways for our happiness. And that just doesn't suffice, because as we're seeing, and we're getting a very good lesson in this now, the world doesn't go the way we want it to. And unexpected things happen to always be around the corner. Now, if I say to you, like a news flash, unexpected things are around the corner, right? That'll sound scary. It sounds worrisome. However, when we practice the way that the Buddhists have taught me over the last 20 years, we start to have something deeper inside us that understands the truth of uncertainty. The truth, for example, that hopefully not soon, but we are all going to die, that there is going to be illness, that nothing at all in this world, whether it be the health and security of our family and friends, financial situations of anyone close to us, or our own health, security, finances, relationships, etc. They're all uncertain. They might feel reliable at times, but if you look deep into the truth of it, they're all unreliable. In fact, it is impossible that we get to keep anything or anyone that we have in this life, because at one point, whether it be because they leave us, we leave them, situations make it so, sickness or death, that we'll always end up being apart from those that we love. And so here, of course, it's happening unexpectedly, but we can also never know when any of that will happen either, and when death will come. So I see this situation as an opportunity to take a look at the truth that things are uncertain and start to be able to accept that truth. And when we accept that truth that things are uncertain, in fact, not only are all these things outside of us that I'm talking about uncertain, but even our own thoughts, what we're going to think next is uncertain. How we're going to feel or even react to what I'm saying. You don't know how you're going to react. I might say something, you might feel happy. I might say something else, you might feel upset about it. Our own feelings are uncertain. Our own thoughts are uncertain. So everything, absolutely everything, in every moment is uncertain. And we're living in a delusion that there are some certainties or some things that we can rely on for our happiness in life, and that just isn't true. But when we start to practice to see on a moment-to-moment basis this truth that everything is impermanent, everything arises and falls, then we begin to understand the way the world really works, and we start to have a happiness based in truth and wisdom that isn't relying on things going a particular way, and isn't relying on everything being happy and dandy in our life situation, in our relationships, in our health, or even in any crises that are going, or what is going on in the world. So what does this type of happiness entail? Well, firstly, it entails not trusting the emotions that you have when they're, especially when they're negative ones, but anytime, that they are what you should feel. We're really trained in this way that there's certain ways that we should feel in situations, like if somebody dies that is close to us, that we should feel bad, right? And of course, you want to be socially acceptable, so we should make the face that these things are causing us grief and pain, and we want to be respectful of others, of course. But internally, when we practice mindfulness on the path to insight and wisdom, very often when a painful feeling arises, mindfulness greets this feeling, and this feeling completely disappears. And we're free of any pain or any angst emotionally, even in some quite severe situations. It just completely disappears. The sadness disappears, the anger disappears, or a mind that's really lost and preoccupied can just cease to be preoccupied right on the spot. So we still act socially the way we should, but I can tell you from experience that inappropriate happiness is happening regularly throughout the day for me and for those of us here that practice these methods of mindfulness for insight.